As you drink from the pot, your soul is being exchanged for all the riches and powers you ever desire. Grab your popcorn and fasten your seatbelt as we take you through the story of the mysterious pot of riches and powers. In the ancient town of Goomba, where the Harmattan wind blew strong and the market square buzzed with life, there was a legend that many whispered about. It was said that deep within the forest, past the sacred groves, and under the great Iroko tree, lived a beautiful and mysterious woman named Omalicha. Omalicha was not just any woman. She was a witch, feared and avoided by many. She was not often seen in the town, but when she did appear, her beauty was breathtaking. Her skin shone like polished ebony, and her eyes gleamed with a strange enchanting light. Her presence brought both fear and curiosity, but what truly attracted the people was the rumor of her pot of wealth. This pot was not ordinary pot. It was said to be filled with the riches of the earth, unseen gold, silver, and precious stones beyond imagination. But its true power lay not in the contents, but in the water it held. This water, when drunk 7 times from a special cowrie designed cup, granted wealth and power to anyone, and not just any wealth. It was the kind that turned beggars into kings and merchants into lords. However, as with all things magical, there was a condition. Anyone who drank from the pot must never eat food cooked by a virgin. Failure to follow these rules would result into unimaginable consequences. Many heard the stories, but only few dared to venture into the forest to seek Omalicha's pot. Among them were businessmen, pastors, and even powerful chiefs. In Goomba, the name Okafor was familiar. He was a middle-class man in his region, owning some lands and a business. Yet, despite his comfortable life, he was always in search for more. Never contented with what he had, greed had consumed him. One evening, as the sun set and the town prepared for nightfall, Okafor sat in his well-furnished living room, pondering on how he could multiply his wealth. His friend, Pastor Chuki, a well-known figure in the town, had grown mysteriously rich over the last few months. The pastor, once humble and devoted, now drove the latest cars and built churches in neighboring towns. Okafor was curious. How could a man who once had nothing rise so quickly? One day, during a lavish celebration at Pastor Chukwudi's mansion, Okafor pulled him aside. "My friend," he began, "you must tell me the secrets of your success. I'm willing to do anything it takes just to be like you." Pastor Chukwudi hesitated, looking around to ensure no one was listening. "It is not something I share lightly, Okafor," he whispered. "But if you truly wish to know, and because you are my friend, I will tell you. However, you must be prepared for the price." Okafor's eyes gleamed with interest. "I am ready," he said firmly. Chukwudi drew closer and spoke of Omalicha, the mysterious woman in the forest, and her pot of wealth. He explained the ritual, the 7 drinks from the cowrie's adorned cup, and the rule about virgin. "You must never eat food cooked by a virgin," Chukwudi warned. "This is the one rule you must follow. Break it, and your wealth will crumble." Okafor, consumed by greed, agreed without hesitation. The very next day, he gathered 2 other greedy businessmen like him, Alhaji Musa and Mr. Emeka, and they set off into the forest. The journey to Omalicha's hut was not an easy one. The forest was thick and dark, with trees that seemed to whisper as the wind blew through the leaves. The men could feel eyes watching them, though they saw no one. Strange sound echoed around them, and the occasional hoot of an owl. But they pressed on, driven by the promises of wealth. As they walked deeper into the forest, they came across a small clearing. There, under the shade of a massive iroko tree, sat Omalicha's hut. The roof was made of woven palm fronds, and the walls were decorated with ancient symbols. In front of the hut sat Omalicha herself, more beautiful than they could have ever imagined. She smiled as they approached, her eyes gleaming with a knowing look. "I see you have come for the pot of wealth," she said in a voice that was both soothing and chilling. Okafor, being the boldest, stepped forward. "Yes, Omalicha, we have come to receive your blessings." Omalicha laughed softly, a sound that sent shiver down their spine. "The pot of wealth is not given freely," she said. "There is a ritual. You must drink from the pot 7 times using this particular cup. And as you drink, your soul is being exchanged for all the riches and powers you ever desire," she said, holding a cup carved from wood and adorned with cowries. "But remember," she continued, her voice growing serious, "you must never eat food cooked by a virgin. This is the rule. If one of you breaks it, you all will face the consequences." The men nodded, eager to proceed. Omalicha led them into her hut, where the pot of wealth sat in the center, shimmering with an unearthly light. One by one, the men drank from the pot, each sip filling them with a strange warmth that spread through their bodies. When they had finished, Omalicha smiled again. "Go now," she said, "and remember the rules." Upon returning to the town, not long after, Okafor, Musa, and Emeka found their fortune growing at an astonishing rate. Businesses flourished, deals fell into places effortlessly, and their wealth multiplied faster than they could count. Pastor Chuki, having already completed the ritual months earlier, welcomed them into his cycle of the elect, where they shared their newfound riches and powers. Few months later, Okafor, who had once been a middle-class man but restless, now felt invisible. He bought more lands, expanded his businesses, and built a mansion so grand that even the first richest man in the town took notice. Alhaji Musa opened new markets, while Mr. Emeka started a chain of successful hotels across the region. Their wealth, however, came with this constant feeling of fear. The fear of accidentally eating food cooked by a virgin weighed heavily on their minds. They hired only experienced chef and made sure to ask about the cook's background before dining anywhere. One fateful day, Chief Okafor found himself in a neighboring town for a business meeting. After hours of discussion, he decided to stop by a well-known restaurant, which he normally visited for a meal whenever he's in the town. The aroma of jollof rice and fried plantain filled the air, and his stomach groaned in anticipation. Unknown to him, a young girl named Nora, who had just started working at the restaurant, had prepared the meal. Nora was a virgin, but she was too shy to speak to the customers, so she had simply do her job in the kitchen, cooking with care and attention, as she always did, without coming out. Okafor, who didn't know that a new cook had been employed, ate heartedly, not knowing that he had just broken the one rule that bonded his wealth. As he finished his meals, he felt a strange sensation in his chest, but he brushed it off. Little did he know, this was just the beginning of his end. As Chief Okafor left the restaurant, the unsettling sensation in his chest grew stronger. He tried to ignore it, convincing himself it was nothing more than indigestion. But deep down, a sense of fear began to take root. Days passed, and the sign became clearer. His once thriving business faced unexpected setbacks. Contracts were suddenly cancelled, goods were delayed, and his employee became strangely uncooperative. Even his trusted allies, Alhaji Musa and Mr. Emeka, noticed the shift. Okafor's usual aura of confidence seems to be fading away. He began avoiding them, spending more time alone in his grand mansion. Meanwhile, in the forest, Omalicha the witch was well aware of what has happened. She could sense the disturbance in the magic of the pot of worlds. Sensing that one of them had broken the rule, her eyes glowed with a strange satisfaction. "The fool has broken the rule," she whispered to herself, gazing into the shimmering water of the pot. Soon, news spread through the town of Goomba that Chief Okafor was facing financial troubles, though no one could explain why. To the ordinary town people, it seems like a sudden twist of fate. But to those who knew the secrets of the pots, like Pastor Chuki, it was clear that Okafor had broken the sacred rule. "Habamana, do you think he has eaten food cooked by a virgin?" Alhaji Musa asked one evening as they gathered in Pastor Chukwudi's mansion. Chukwudi, his face grim, nodded slowly. "It seems so. The course has begun, and none of us will escape it. I fear so. We must be careful not to make the same mistake, and I hope his carelessness would not affect the rest of us," as Omalicha said. Okafor's downfall was not the only concern. As the other men watched his fortune crumble, they grew more paranoid. They doubled their precaution, interrogating every cook and chef that prepared their meals. But something far worse awaited them. A month after Okafor's ill-fated meal, things took a turn for the worst. One evening, while seated in his study room, Okafor felt a sharp pain in his chest, followed by a wave of dizziness. The room spun, and within moments, he collapsed to the floor. His wife, who rushed in upon hearing the noise, screamed for help. But it was too late. By the time the doctor arrived, Okafor had drawn his last breath. News of his sudden death shocked the entire town. Many mourned him. But a few like Emeka and his core evildoers whispered that the spirits of the forest had claimed him for breaking their laws. At his funeral, Pastor Chuki delivered a moving sermon, but deep down inside, he felt a gunning fear. If the curse had claimed Okafor's life, it could easily spread to the others who had partaken in the ritual. Alhaji Musa and Emeka stood beside the pastor during the burial, their faces pale with worry. Not long after Okafor's passing, strange things began to happen to them all, one after the other. Alhaji Musa, once the proud owner of several thriving markets, found himself at the center of a scandal. His employee began stealing from him, and his markets were suddenly raided by the authorities for reasons he could not explain. Mr. Emeka's hotel's chain, once the most prestigious in the region, saw a series of accidents. Guests reported mysterious incidents, like lights turning itself off at all times, strange noises in the night, and worst of all, a fire that consumed one of his largest hotels, taking the lives of several people. It became clear to both men that the curse was spreading, and their downfall had just begun. The wealth they had gained from the pot of wealth was slipping through their fingers like sand, and they were powerless to stop it. In the heart of Goomba, life continued as usual for most people. But in the shadows, rumors spread about the pot of wealth and those who had partaken of its dark powers. Nora, the young virgin who had unknowingly cooked the meal that led to Chief Okafor's downfall, had no idea that her action had set off a chain of events that would soon engulf the entire neighboring town, Goomba. One evening, as she prepared dinner in the restaurant, a strange woman entered. Her beauty was unmatched, and her eyes gleamed with an otherworldly light. It was Omala, though Nora did not recognize her because she was not from their town. Omala approached Nora with a smile. "You are the one who cooked the meal for Chief Okafo, are you not?" Nora, taken aback, nodded slowly. "Yes, ma. Although I don't know who or when was that, but for many months now, I'm the one in charge of cooking all meals here. Any problem, ma?" Omala's smile widened. "You have no idea what you have done, do you? That meal you cooked has set in motion forces beyond your understanding." Nora's heart raced with fear. "What do you mean, ma?" "The men who came to me for wealth have broken the rule, and because of your innocency, they are now paying the price." Nora stepped back, her mind spinning. "I don't understand, ma." "You don't need to," Omala said calmly. "But know this, what has begun cannot be undone. Thank you for making it easy for those greedy men to pay with their soul. Those who sought wealth through evil means will suffer until the curse has run its courses." With that, Omala turned and left, leaving Nora trembling in confusion and fear. As the weeks passed, the curse spread faster than anyone could have imagined. Pastor Chuki, who had thought himself safe from the consequences of the ritual, began experiencing strange nightmares. Every night, he saw a vision of the pot of wealth, its water turning black and bubbling with molten lava. In this dream, Omala's voice echoed in his ears, reminding him of the rule he had preached to others, but he had failed to truly respect. One night, unable to bear the nightmares any longer, he ventured into the forest to find Omala, but when he arrived at her hut, the pot of wealth was gone, and Omala herself was nowhere to be found. All that remained was a simple message carved on the ground: "You cannot escape what you have summoned." Pastor Chuki returned home with fear and uncertainty, but his dreams continued. Soon after, his wealth too began to crumble. Donations to his churches dried up, his investment failed, and his congregation reduced as was prayed of his association with the cursed pots. Alhaji Musa and Mr. Amaka, once powerful men, now found themselves facing total ruin. Musa's markets were seized by the government, while Emeka's hotel's empire collapsed, leaving him in debt. Both men tried looking for Omala, at least to plead with her, to give them another chance, but she could not be found, her powers far beyond their reaches. As the curse ran its courses, the town of Goomba was left with a haunting lesson. Wealth gained through evil means never lasts. The once mighty men who had built their fortune through the mysterious pot of wealth were now either dead or destituted. Chief Okafo, Pastor Chuki, Alhaji Musa, and Mr. Amaka each faced a tragic death, with their name forever associated with greed and downfall. The town elders, who had always warned against seeking powers through dark means, reminded the people of the dangers of such pursuits. And as for Omala, the beautiful witch, she remained a mystery. Some say she had returned to the depth of the forest, while others claim that she had vanished entirely. But one thing was certain: her pot of wealth had left a lasting mark on Goomba, and its story would be told for generations to come. Nora, the young virgin who had unknowingly played a part in the downfall of the rich man, lived quietly, unaware of the full extent of her involvement. But she too would never forget the strange encounter with Omala, the cause that had shaken the town to its core. In the end, The town of Goomba learned a valuable lesson. True wealth comes not from magical pots or shortcuts, but from hard work, honesty, and living a life free of greed. Share your lessons, what you learned from this story, in the comment section below. Thank you, friends, for always watching. We love you and see you soon.